Hello, and welcome to another Path video. Today, I'll briefly discuss the FaveFest GEF, where you'll be able to choose a free GFE. There are a few restrictions though, as the options are only those that their base is at least 7-star rarity and have been released before October. This basically just excludes metas. The pseudo GFEs are excluded as well, so units like Cocrex, Aggregate, and the extremely early Mary Luna are excluded. The redemption period ends on December 31st and can be accessed via the mail notice or under these menus. Before going into the choices, just how good is the Player's Choice Godfest? I think it's pretty decent, as there are a bunch of hard-to-get BGMs at a 2% pull rate, which is double their usual rates. Notably, this Godfest introduces two new units, Meluna and Metis. Meluna will be the boss for the Moon Dungeon, aka GA4, and she will therefore be farmable just like Jupiter is from GA1. However, her dungeon is a little over 1.5 months away, give or take, as I don't think that Gung Ho NA will expedite this title dungeon ahead of the next one, which should be the Pixel one. The Moon title just started over a week ago in JP, so it'll be a while until us NNA will be able to farm the gems needed to exchange for Meluna. So for the time being, this unit is REM only. Metis is a unit that you could only purchase during IRL events in JP, but with this Godfest, we now have a way of obtaining her. Her base is not that useful in meta teams at the moment. Her active skill can tackle a lot of mechanics, but her cooldown suffers due to that, and thus it might be better to use other units that are more specialized. Though both of her equips are fairly solid. If you want these two units, or any of the other BGMs like Butler Kurotobi, then maybe it's not the worst idea to do a few pulls here. Before going all out, these are the upcoming REMs. Maybe check if something else catches your eye. The Player's Choice Godfest will run until the 10th of December, and by that point, I think we should have all the details for the Christmas seasonal event. So if you want to make the most informed decision, maybe hold off until we see some unit details. Seasonals don't tend to be groundbreaking, but sometimes strong leaders like Menuet and Shaolin come about. Maybe Fiamer or Lu could be in high demand very soon if they release a strong fire or wood leader. The FaveFest gift duration is much longer. You have until December 31st to make your choice, and it doesn't hurt to do the same and wait until the last minute to get as much info as possible from JP. By then, we should have all the details for the New Year event. So just like with Christmas, that seasonal will probably be very lackluster. Alright, now onto the main topic for the video. Which GFE should you choose? Like always, the answer depends on your monster box and your goals, so there really isn't an answer that will apply for everyone. However, I'll give you my thoughts on the units that I think that you should first consider and move them from there. First, I would consider getting one of the 9-star GFEs, as these will give you a type enhancement badge, and obtaining these units is the only way of getting these badges. Solomon gives the Devil badge, Karkinos the Machine badge, Friggs the Physical badge, Themis the Balance badge, and Boldfeet gives you the Dragon badge. Earlier this year, we got a free pick from Karkinos, Frigg, and Themis, among other options. And if you chose one of these three, I feel like you can exclude whoever you chose, as dupes don't really provide much value. Right now, popular leaders that could make use of these badges are as followed. From this, the Machine badge looks like the most useful one. However, do note that a lot of teams generally tend to use their respective collab badges, so you might not actually get much use out of these type enhancement badges. If you don't have any of these 9-star GFEs, I would first look at Solomon and maybe Karkino. Solomon can be useful in all of his forms. The base Evo's active skill works in some plus limit breakthrough Colosseums, like this one with 3 training slots. You could also use him as a leader, however, he is not all that strong, and you might have something better already. Solomon's equips are pretty handy too, especially if you care about farming parts. Karkinos as a unit is unfortunately not in high demand at the moment. Maybe if you play wood teams like Butler Arprek, you could use him as your looping shield option. Karkinos equips are also a bit too niche, though maybe the brooch isn't that bad in general, but I feel like nowadays, this is a little bit lacking. Since Path has gotten to collabs with a lot of machine types, Kaiju number 8 and Digimon, there are a lot of possible use cases for the machine badge, like for example, some Kigoro build. Boldfeet can make up a system, and just like Solomon, this unit was exchangeable earlier this year, but maybe at the time you lacked the fodder. The Boldfeet system is not the best though, as its damage output is lacking and is not even that fast, since you will have to deal with combo orbs. Their equip has risen in popularity as of late, since this fits in nicely with Kafka on some farming builds due to basically all of its awakening. Out of these 5 9-stars, I would say that the Machine Badge, and therefore Karkinos, has a lot of immediate uses due to a lot of Kaiju number 8 and Digimon units being machine type. The Devil Badge also has its uses, though I feel like this might have the most potential since Devil types are a very common monster type and are often released. Even though there isn't a strong Devil team that will be released in the next few months, I think it's only a matter of time. And since the base and equips have their uses, albeit maybe a little bit niche, I would say that Solomon has the most utility out of all of the 9-star GFEs. All of the other batch units are maybe too niche, and I wouldn't really get them unless you have concrete plans. These units do have decent equips, but they're not really that unique, apart from maybe ball feeds, which is really hard to replace on some Kafka farming builds. If you have at least one of all of these batch units, or if you only have the ones you care for, I would then take a look at Enigma. The base is largely useless, and the reason why you should be looking at him as an option is their 5 equips. All of them are essentially the same, save for their attributes and sub-attribute awakenings. The equip's awakenings and active skills are both amazing on any damage dealer, and especially so after the latest buff, which gave each equip an SDR awakening. Plus, if we see more units that require a certain amount of orbs on the board to transform, like we saw before with Hinata and Ice, then these equips will be one of the better options to fulfill those requirements. This is also a unit where you don't mind dupes as much as you would like for the batch ones, especially if you have various teams that would welcome this equip but each prefer a different attribute. For example, you might want the water one for Laufey and maybe the dark one for Rosetta or one of her subs. So even if you have a copy of Enigma, another one probably won't hurt, especially because then you won't have to waste resources changing between equipped forms. FYI, to Evo Enigma, you will have to perform Part Break in his own descended dungeon, which comes about once every 2 weeks or so. If you have enough badge units and Enigmas, then I would suggest looking at these 4 GFEs, as they also have extremely useful equips. The base forms could work as decent subs, but apart from Circlia, you mostly see these units in teams as equips. Arc's first equip is great for its effective skill boosts, team HPs, and 10C awakening, plus its add devil type awakening could enable some teams. For example, this can work on Bartender Alexander if you plan to use that unit in a Sohakuten team. Arc's second equip is a bit more niche due to its low cooldown active skill, however, this isn't much of an issue if you don't max scale it and put it on a transforming unit like Rosetta. Steed's equip gives an insane damage boost to units that don't have a Levitate Awakening and match CPAs. Though even if you don't match CPAs, the Levitate Awakening is often enough to deal significant damage. This equip's active skill and other awakenings are great on basically every modern skill boost hungry team. The attribute and damage absorption void effects are also pretty handy at times, though as of late, pierce effects are often needed at the start of a dungeon like in Venus. If that's what you need, then Goten's equip could be better suited as long as you don't mind the dark sub-attribute and possibly lower damage boost. Its new Skillbind Resist Awakening is interesting and might actually matter in some comps that don't have 100% SBR. It is unfortunate that this equip isn't Devil or Attacker type, as that would have made it great on the one meta team right now that needs it, the Narumi Duo team. Circlia has 2 monster forms that might not make it a bad cleric. However, he isn't that popular of a choice right now. I have seen the OG form in some Reno teams, and maybe in the future, this unit might be very useful in the next GA dungeon in JP. This is just a guess, but the next GA dungeon after the Moon one will probably be a Sun dungeon, where Circlia might be able to shine a little bit more. Circlia's equips are also a bit niche, though I have been seeing the second one a bit more recently in JP after the buff. This one boosts the healing of transforming or long Evo active skill cooldown clerics like Maid Isis and the Path Island version. If you are content with enough copies of the previous units, I might take a look at the following. The Dragon Knight Trio was another IRL-only event unit in JP for a while. It did eventually make it to NA, but if you haven't been pulling in Godfest as of late, you might not have a single copy. Their equips are not that bad and are also somewhat unique, either awakening or active skill-wise. Silva Clashes are also somewhat new to NA, so you might not still have a copy of either. Silva has seasonal use as a sub for wood teams like Butler Albrecht, and their equip isn't that bad if you need a damage and team recovery boost and don't care for the active skill. Clashes, on the other hand, is maybe too niche in both forms, but maybe your Rainbow team will be able to benefit from its equip. Orihime and Hikoboshi both have great Levitate Awakenings with a lot of OEs. I would probably prioritize Orihime first, since his active skill is generally more useful. The Mermaid and Succubus equips are fairly decent. The first one is okay due to its bulk and effective skill boost. The second equip will soon get buffed with an extra Dark Takoyaki and Levitate Awakenings. This will make it great for units like Ovanai if you're using a Daki system, as Ovanai needs to be Devil type to get Daki's cap break and would also greatly benefit from a Levitate Awakening. Athena recently got a buff that makes her and her 3 Team HP equip well suited to deal with large hits in newer dungeons, like Granervin Venus, who also happens to awaken bind you. She does have other forms, but these are largely unimpressive right now. The Gemstone Trio and Labrel have various equips that could come in handy, though the active skills are pretty lackluster. Selene remains ever useful for some XP farming teams, either for the base's leader skill or for the equip's active skill and dungeon boost awakening. Her Light and Dark Evo can be useful for some light swipe teams. Even if you have her, some farming teams do call for multiple copies of her equips, so even if you have one Selene, maybe you want to get more. There are a ton of other GFEs that you could choose, but I think I cover the most useful ones. If I miss someone noteworthy, let me know in the comments below. To recap, I think you should first look at the badges and get any that you are missing or care for. I do think that Solomon, Karkinos, and Bullfeed have the most immediate uses at the moment. If you're happy with the badges, I would then check if you have enough Enigmas, as their equips are simply amazing. Ark, Steed, Goten, and Circlia also have really good equips and are decent options if you have enough of the previous units. Then, there are other notable GFEs like the Dragon Knight Trio and Orihime, though these units are maybe too niche or you might already have a couple of copies if you've been playing for a while. Good luck with your pulls if you'll be rolling in the Players' Choice Godfest, and do let me know who you will be choosing as your free GFE. On my main account, I'll be going with Enigma since I haven't gotten a single copy ever since the release. And for my alt account, I'll be going with Solomon since I didn't have enough water to make the exchange a few months ago. Thankfully, my alt account does have 2 Enigmas, so choosing Solomon is a very easy choice. Alright, that does it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and a special thanks go out to Anokor Panda, Breastfeeding Obama, Adri Ryan, Dingo Dante, and Wade for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.